Hail them.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
Hailing frequencies. Open.
Captain, we're being hailed.
They're hailing us, sir.
On screen.
Hello, and welcome to Hailing Frequencies Open, your podcast where we're trekking through the past, present, and future of Star Trek. I'm your host, Mike Jones, and joining me via the magic of Zoom calls, coming all the way from engineering, Ben Whitmore.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here.
Sometimes I do individual introductions.
Oh.
And up on the bridge, Aaron Hadley.
Sometimes I'm on the bridge. Yay. Hello, internet friends.
Woohoo! And we have an extra special guest this episode. My husband. Welcome back to the podcast. You all love him. It's Tim O'Donnell.
I usually get mentioned every podcast, so you're welcome.
It's true. And now you're just here to back it up, to be like, see, he does exist.
Now I'm here to defend myself.
Right.
How do you respond to the allegations?
He's also our most loyal listener because I get notes.
Oh.
I need them.
So you're the one.
Sometimes we just have hour-long note sessions. He's teaching me to ignore my instincts.
Tim just got in from work, so he is eating some dinner. If you're listening, if you hear crunching.
Peanuts. I'm sorry.
All of us are drinking. Well, actually, no, Erin's not because she's being a good girl. She's on bridge duty.
No, I'm having Diet Coke at 8 o'clock at night. So cheers, Erin, to not having alcohol.
O'Donnell.
Yeah. Oh, is that Pellegrino?
Yeah, it's that new Ascenda. We are sponsored this week by Pellegrino.
That feels like a bridge drink.
Yeah. We're sponsored by Aldi Ciders. It's not Angry Orchard, it's Wicked Grove.
That's fun.
I'm drinking a Strawberry Sky from Breckenridge Brewery.
Oh.
What kind? What's that?
It's a local brewery here in Breckenridge, Colorado, and it's a Kolsch style ale, so German, and with some strawberry infusion, and it's delightful and refreshing on this hot Colorado day.
Nice.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Is it
Cold.
clear the smoke from your throat?
Bright and grassy.
It's actually, the smoke has subsided quite a bit. The fires have been a bit controlled, so now
That's good.
we have clear air up here. Apparently the Front Range is still like down in Denver, and for those people who don't know what the Front Range is, because I throw that term around like everyone knows what it is.
Right.
But yeah, so we live up in the mountains in like ski country, and Denver's about an hour away from us, and they, much lower. We're at like 8,700 feet. They're at like 5,000. The Mile High City, 5,280.
Wow.
When we lived in Colorado, I used to joke that if we were just a little higher, we would be high enough for you to turn your electronic devices back on, because that's at 10,000 feet in an area.
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
But if you had never come out here, you would never have met my beautiful.
Well, that's just it.
That's true.
I got Ben. I really got Ben and Debbie out of it. That made the entire experience worth it.
That's the best thing about Colorado, is that I live here. And that's about it.
I've heard people say that. And legal marijuana.
Well,
I've heard that as well.
That's all right.
Yeah, I missed that.
I'm not that I know anything. I know
It'll
nothing,
be,
but I've heard rumors.
Yeah. Ostensibly, if the whole thing doesn't fall apart, it'll be legal in the country eventually. But.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
They say Florida's or it was pretty close. I think they've.
Could you imagine the industry like they would generate
in
down
Florida?
There?
Oh my God!
Kidding?
The school systems would be rich in tax dollars.
Yeah, it would be great.
Just think about the edibles before going on Space Mountain. Magical.
Been there, and it's as good as you think it is.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That would be awesome.
Well, we have the reason we have our special guest is that Tim knows a lot about costumes, and that's our topic for today. You do, and you've been making masks like crazy.
Wait till you see the fabric I bought today for you, Mike.
I can't wait.
It's a surprise.
Are you selling them? Do you have like an Etsy shop, Tim?
No, I just make them. Why? Do you need some?
I have so many, but I was going to shop in your shop.
No,
I want a Tim O'Donnell original.
Well, no, I'm going to send you one now just so you have it. But yeah,
I
no.
want
Well,
one.
I teach at a college. I teach musical theater and theater tech at a college, and I have students making masks for the community. So
That's awesome.
That's fantastic.
when I don't want to do it, like today for an hour because my brain hurt, I made masks and watched Parks and Rec on my phone.
Right. And
That's
the
my
Masks
job.
music video
That's the life.
from Kelly. Specifically, we are going to talk about the costumes that we have seen so far in our rewatch of TNG, and actually go to the end of season 2 as well. So season 1 and 2 of TNG costume wise. And to guide us in our conversation, I have put together a Google slideshow. You can find a link to it in the show notes. You can also find it on hailingfrequenciesopen.com when you, if you're using a podcast viewer that or aggregator that doesn't show you the notes. Go to our website. You can find the link to it there. You don't have to look at it. There's another podcast I listen to called Trek Files, which is great. It's a Roddenberry podcast. Larry Nemechek is the host. He's amazing. And each week they pull something from the archives of Gene Roddenberry's files, and they scan it in and they put it online and they discuss it. I hardly ever download the actual document and look at it, but I always listen to it, and I feel like I don't miss that much because they describe it really well.
I can also cut it into the Patreon video podcast if we want.
Oh,
Oh my God, that's so fancy.
Yeah, so I'll cut. So if you're one of our patrons, you can and you're watching this on the video podcast version that you get for being a patron. I think is that just the second level, whatever it is.
It's the second level.
You get the video podcast early.
And if you're not a patron yet, now is a great time to sign up so you can see what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, you have to do it the old-fashioned way on a Google slideshow. Anyway. But yeah, I'll just when I do this, when I put this one up, I'll just I'll just cut in the slides.
We have recently changed our patron levels as well.
Yeah, updates.
The minimum membership is now only $1.
$1. That's not even a
And-
coffee.
You can't ride the subway.
A month.
No.
You can't.
You can't ride the subway. That is so sad.
That's 20% of a $5 footlong, guys. That's it.
Which is still a thing. You have to use the app, I think. But you can still get $5 footlongs. That's amazing.
This episode is also
$5.
sponsored by Subway.
We're just giving it out for free.
$5 footlongs.
The second level of our Patreon is $2, and for that $2 level a month, you get the video version of our podcast. That was $5 before, so it's down to just $2. So please, if you've been enjoying us, check out our Patreon, look at those levels, get some extra things, and join our team.
We're uploading all kinds of video content and episodes and things that you can get. So you can jump right in and get access to all of it. As soon as it's live, which this month will happen, and it'll be great.
This is Ben's project, the videos.
Yay! I'm contributing.
And if you become a patron, we'll love you forever. Promise, cross our hearts.
Exactly.
We'll be your best friend.
Whoa.
If you can't afford to be a patron because life is hard right now for a lot of us, you can always leave us a good review or a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss anything. It does. Our subscription numbers and our reviews and ratings really do help people find us.
Yeah.
So, sweet. Okay.
So
I feel like I have to explain if you're watching the video. It's being Mike and I are in the same house, but we're on different places, and he is projecting it on a TV because I just got out of work. So
yeah,
that's what I'm looking
So
at.
he did all the prep work for you, so you're ready to go.
Yeah,
the TV in the living room is mirroring my laptop screen.
That's so
now.
thoughtful.
Loving
so
spouse.
fancy, a loving spouse.
Amazing.
So the way we're going to talk about costumes over the podcast is we're going to break it down a little bit and highlight a few specific episodes, many of which we've reviewed and talked about on the podcast before. I will run through those titles real quick. In season 1, Code of Honor, The Last Outpost, Justice, Haven, Angel One, and Symbiosis. And then from season 2, The Outrageous Okana, Loud as a Whisper. We haven't got to these yet, but Manhunt, Icarus Factor, and Q Who. We're also going to highlight a couple specific characters like Wesley Crusher, Loxana Troy, Guinan, and talk about the uniforms as well. So that gives you an idea of what the next, little bit is going to be like. Cool.
Sounds good.
Hey.
I'm following along on the Google slide.
I'm so
This
glad
is
you
fun.
are.
Likewise.
We should add the little like bing.
I know, like the old
on those
film
books
strips
on-
in school.
right?
Ding. Remember how exciting it was to be
mantis.
picked to turn it?
Oh my god!
my
yes.
gosh.
Such a nerd, but yeah, that was a big deal. And it is always terrible narration. You know what I mean? Maybe I should imitate that.
No.
The costume designer from the first season. Anyway, so back in the late 70s when they were developing Star Trek Phase 2, which later became the motion picture and then kind of evolved into The Next Generation, they were using the original costume designer for Star Trek, the original series, Bill Tice, or William Ware Tice. He had a very dramatic aesthetic. He liked to show lots of skin, especially on women, even though I do believe he was gay, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't like half-naked women, because God knows the original series was full of them.
I would argue that makes him more interested in half-naked women.
Right, how to dress a woman as provocatively. Like his costumes often look like the fabric is just sitting there, like there's nothing holding it up. It's just like magic, and of course it's lots of double stick tape and things like that. But
Just like an 8th grade dance.
exactly,
Double stick tape and hope.
Mr. Tice won an Emmy for his costume design work on Star Trek The Next Generation. The episode that was submitted was The Big Goodbye, which is the first Dixon Hill episode.
Mm-hmm.
In the little slideshow, I do have some of his original sketches that he did for Star Trek The Next Generation.
Look at these sassy men.
His drawings are very sassy.
Very jaunty.
These are also online at ForgottenTrek.com. That's where I got these images. My favorite is the uniform. It's a male officer, and it's similar to the uniform we ended up with, except there's white in the yoke on the top, and the sides are open.
You can see that the sides are open. And look at the rib cage that he drew on that man. It's like choking out. What man looks like that?
You would have to be like a bodybuilder to wear this costume.
Could you imagine Jonathan Frakes wearing that at any point?
No, not maybe season
He's
1,
too
but after
fuzzy.
that, no.
I feel like there'd be fuzz sticking out.
You'd have to wax.
Now,
Yeah.
do you think that they sort of borrowed that concept of the white on top for Lower Decks, because they have that white stripe on the shoulders?
Oh, that's a great question. That's
on
very
the
possible.
Cerritos.
That is a great question.
They on Lower Decks, they also have that. It was introduced in Star Trek 2, that panel that goes across and down and then opens up.
Yep.
And you can see that on some of these costumes, and we see that in the dress uniforms in TNG. That panel. But yeah, these costumes he was making some bold choices. It's a little 70s, even though it was the 80s.
Yeah.
It's a little comic booky, a little superhero-ish.
Sure.
I would say.
I also want to point out. Okay, so in the drawings, this man in the scant, which we'll talk about soon, is pointing his toe. So my question, as a costume shop manager, I would say, do you want them in a split sole shoe so they can point their toes like a dance shoe?
That's a good question.
It's just a very specific way of drawing it.
Yeah. Well, he was trying to show off the calf. They're showing off the calf muscle because it looks almost like those men are not wearing pants as much as they're wearing tights or leggings.
Yes, and we will see that later. We'll see the leggings show up in the show.
These drawings read like dancewear to me.
They
They're, because the first drawing, it looks like he's in, he's just come off the opening number of On the Town.
He's got leg warmers.
Yeah,
he's got leg warmers on.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like some weird like broke down version of Starlight Express, but
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
they look
Needs
like
roller
dancers.
skates.
They don't look like uniforms.
Sure.
yeah, it's interesting.
He was really interested in the long skirt idea too, and you can tell from these drawings.
The frock.
So let's talk about the costume that they ended up settling on. In the first couple seasons, the uniforms don't have a collar. They are kind of low cut at the neck, and they have the piping around the yoke at the top, which is kind of naval. And you can see that in the drawings, kind of influenced in. These drawings were these costumes were incredibly uncomfortable. The actors absolutely hated them. They were one-piece jumpsuits that zipped up in the front. They had stirrups to make sure the pant leg was as straight as possible, so they were like stirrup pants. And according to the actors, they were built 2 sizes too small because Roddenberry didn't want any wrinkles, so he wanted everything to be very taut. And the fabric that they used was a jumbo weight spandex that was originally really for swimwear. And Mr. Tice used the inside of the fabric with the dull side out and the shiny side towards the skin. So they didn't breathe at all. And they smelled really bad.
Yeah. So So when it comes to swimwear fabric like that, to turn it inside out, it draws it from you, right? And pulls it to the outside layer. That's how a spandex like that would work. So to turn it inside out literally would mean that your sweat would stick to it and then push back against your skin.
Yeah.
Oh.
That is so gross.
Well, you can kind of see it in that close-up photo that you've got there. Like it's sort of bunching out with the seams. Like it's not sitting right. You know what I mean? Like it looks a little weird. Looks costumey.
Sure.
But,
also, let's have a
polyester.
conversation about the compression garments you would have to wear in order to wear something 2 sizes too small.
Yes. Will Wheaton has a famous story where he was working on the show and they were filming Star Trek 5 or 6 Next Door. And he wanted to meet William Shatner, and he just kind of happened to be in the right place at the right time. And but he didn't have his top of his costume zipped up. You could see what he called a muscle shirt underneath, like a fake muscle shirt that all of the men wore. So and he found it really embarrassing. So he put on a hoodie and covered it up. And then William Shatner was an absolute dick to him. And it's a really annoying story about how William Shatner is not necessarily the nicest person. But I suggest finding that story on the internet. Everyone else was really nice to Wesley about it. But anyway, it was interesting that he said all the men wore these things, and the women wore bras that were very I don't want to say wonder bra, but basically wonder bras. You know what I mean? To that didn't give any lines, but gave them the bustier. And the men
you
also
want everything
wore
high and tight.
High and tight.
So I mean, I have opinions about this, but I'm going to turn to Aaron. Do you think would that be comfortable?
Comfort? No. Women's undergarments are never comfortable, Tim O'Donnell.
That's not true. I don't believe that to be true. But if when it comes to if you were going to wear like a bustier, I have been told that is a better case scenario because of the way that it holds you up. But you also have to be the right size. If your breasts are bigger, that of course is not going to help you.
Not necessarily.
In your opinion, what do you, I don't know. I don't know what I'm ultimately asking you, but what do you think about that? Do you think that you would have preferred that based on?
If I had to wear a costume like this, I would want every compression garment under the sun to be on my body before you put this layer on top.
Got it.
But I've worn Spanx. I've worn all of the different things. None of them are comfortable, but as a woman, you're conditioned to tolerate these things. So I don't know that it would have been any less comfortable for the women on set than any other costume would be. I think the bigger thing would just be the temperature control, because those clothes don't breathe. So then
at all,
you're dealing with all of those layers where sweat is getting trapped. And then you're dealing with potential chafing and things like that, where it gets really nasty and uncomfortable.
And it's not cold. It's not cool in those filming environments.
No,
you
it
got
is
lights
not.
on you.
Oh.
Like it's 100 degrees on set. Like it's
Right.
insane.
How did the makeup artists keep the shine off of them for the most part? I mean, there are some shots where you can still see the shine, but
I mean, they would powder for days, but also Mike and I talk about this all the time. You were never meant to see it this clearly.
Yeah, the
That's
HD reveals all the little sins.
The HD really ruined all the sins of this show, which is cool, actually.
Yeah,
for me, but like
sometimes you can see where Brent Spiner's makeup has gotten off onto his collar.
Yeah,
or where it's not.
I always point it out when we're watching.
Yeah.
so funny.
Like, oh,
makeup.
Look at that! It's too clear.
Another thing about these costumes is they gave the actors back pain. Patrick Stewart's chiropractor actually kind of wrote petitioned for the costume to be changed because he said that it was going to cripple him because it was constant pressure because they was so small on the stirrup bottoms and the, you know what I mean? So they only did these costumes, but for two full seasons, they did these tight costumes. So,
and I have one other thing to say about them. When you would sweat through them, if you've ever seen costumes like this, they'll have a sweat mark here. This is where it'll ruin. Mm-hmm. My guess is at best, were they making a new costume for every single episode? Because if you had a bad shooting week, you can't clean that.
Yeah, or were they
spending a ton of money because they couldn't be washed?
Maybe, or they couldn't be washed. That's true. And
they could be washed, but you're not going to get the stain out.
And they could have been doing like pit pads, you can those but those only go so far, and they could be seen.
Well, and also, I mean, if you're sweating that much, it's going to come out. I mean, it's going to. If water finds a way. That's that's how the Grand Canyon was formed. It's gonna find a way.
With sweat and determination.
So let's talk about what we alluded to earlier, the alternate uniform that we see in the first few episodes of the first season, affectionately called the scant. I don't know that they called it the scant, but it's like a skirt pant.
The almighty scant.
The almighty scant. In the slideshow, I have one of Bill Tice's drawings of the scant, and you can tell how it changed in its final design. It was supposed to be, at first glance, it's on the women, it looks very much like a original series costume.
Right, very much.
With the short sleeves that the J.J. Abrams movies
very
did.
60s.
Yeah,
very
and
60s.
the go-go boots.
Yep. Right, with the knee-high go-go boots.
Mm-hmm.
But because in Roddenberry's future, there's gender equality, and there's no reason that clothing has gender. That's something we've assigned to it. So the men could also wear the scant. And it's pretty forward thinking. So you see a few men in the scant uniform, mainly background characters, nobody who has any lines. They wear an ankle boot instead of the go-go boot. And to this day, in Facebook groups and stuff, because I'm a member of too many Star Trek Facebook groups, people will occasionally post a scant picture and be like, oh my God, did you see this costume? How did they get away with this? This is so ridiculous. And they make fun of it on the men.
Which is just closed-minded and ridiculous.
Yeah.
But now knowing what we know about the costumes, though, those actors must have been so happy that they got picked to wear the scant. Yes. Because then things can breathe.
Yeah.
Right. No back pain. Things can breathe.
No, the sweat has a place to go.
Right. Down your legs.
Yeah.
Right.
My problem is that it doesn't look good on men or women. They're too short.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And that goes back to the original series, the really short mini skirts.
Yeah.
Which was a statement in the 60s. It was supposed to be like a women's lib, like we don't have to be demure. We can, and I think a lot of people look back on it now and think that the women were being, used as sex objects and they weren't given real clothes to wear, that kind of, but that wasn't the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, but knowing what we know about Roddenberry and
Yeah.
some of his backwards opinions on women,
Right.
also not
Right.
far from the truth.
And
I look
he
at
did
this
want
and I.
Troy to have multiple breasts. I mean,
Yeah.
more than
That's
two.
right. Oh God, that's right. Oh, I try to block that out. Like she's some sort of cow.
Just rows of teats.
She just
Must have a large-
provides milk for everyone.
What is the birth rate? It must be awful high for those.
Oh God,
to,
yeah.
like, you have
She
a
would
litter
have
of children.
That would be the only reason why
That
you
would
would
be,
have
yeah.
that many teats.
That's the implication, I guess. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, betazoids
litter.
have litters.
Now, I would have volunteered to wear the scant because on camera I would look like I was wearing pants because of, leg hair would help me out in that situation.
There you go.
Well,
I'd look like a
I will
Wookiee.
say most of the men that you see do seem to be shaved or waxed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering if those were like jeggings, like leg, like flesh colored tights or something that they're wearing, but
Maybe.
it
But I
seems
can't
like
tell in the
they were
photo.
like, they went to the local YMCA and said, "Who's on the swim team? Who has shaved legs? You're in the show."
Or would you like to have a SAG contract? Shave your legs.
Right.
Exactly.
This costume has become popular among cosplayers. That you see them pop up at the conventions a lot in the last few years.
I've seen some men in scants
Yeah.
at
Here's my
the
thing.
Denver Comic-Con.
If ultimately this is a work uniform,
Mm.
okay, like what the men and women, I put everyone wearing it, okay. What are they wearing underneath it? Because if you have to get on your hands and knees, or
Yeah.
if you're doing surgery, whatever, like if you bend over, like there's your ass.
Yeah,
So,
I mean it's
like-
just right there.
In the
It-
original
it's-
series, they had
Like bloomers or something.
no cheerleaders wear them. Do they call them?
Spanx.
Oh, the little hot pants.
Yeah, but basically panties. I mean, basically made of the same fabric.
Got it.
So that because there are moments when you can see Lieutenant Uhura's skirt open in the back a little bit, and you can tell that's what she's wearing. So I
wasn't
bet
sure what
something
you were
similar
gonna
was
say.
here. Maybe they were in black. Maybe they just had black Spanx or whatever those were called.
But still, like if you're in a Jeffries tube following somebody,
Mhm.
hi,
Yeah.
your ass.
Yeah.
You would want to change into a jumpsuit for sure.
Good reference to Jeffrey's tubes and a correct one. I'm very
job.
proud of you, Tim.
Well
If you're
done.
married to Mike Jones, you got to keep up with the times.
To know what a Jeffrey's tube is. Of course, in the main cast, there weren't just people who were in Starfleet. There were also children. There was one child in the main cast, Wesley Crusher. And even though we just said it was really hot on the set, it must have been cold on the Enterprise because he wore lots of sweaters that first season.
Yeah, it was him versus Bill Cosby for the ugliest sweaters.
Big,
Iconic,
comfy,
though.
ropey sweaters.
Oh
That-
yeah. I mean, you know what it makes me think of now is David from Schitt's Creek would absolutely wear these sweaters.
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
he would
very
wear
true.
these
They were black.
sweaters.
Like this is it. This is it. If they
That's
were
funny.
couture, he would wear these.
That's amazing.
And I
Why?
wrote, like, leather pants.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Why do you think, looking at these two in the middle, it's the same sweater, but one has like a rounded cuff top, and the other one is a design pattern? Like, why did we work this hard? Why
So
isn't it
that's
just the same sweater? Or is
It
that the
is
other
the same
side?
sweater. It's the other side. So
Oh,
yeah, the
okay.
one
That's- okay, never
costume
mind.
that we see him in the most is the gray with the dark gray shoulders and the 3 color stripes, which I think are supposed to kind of be like the Starfleet colors, the red, gold, and blue. And on his left shoulder, those lines do this like zigzag pattern, and on his right shoulder they don't.
I never realized that they weren't the same on each side.
Yeah.
This is
They
the
like
things
a
I'm
little
learning.
bit of asymmetry in the future.
They do.
Yeah, that's what it is. Look how skinny he was.
He was
God.
very skinny.
He
What a
was so
skinny man.
tiny.
Very skinny man.
We have the same birthday, Will Wheaton and I.
Oh.
I knew I liked you.
Yeah.
What is this jazzercise number he's in? The Silver LeMay?
Oh, so that's the episode where the episode is. Oh crap!
It's where they do a full-scale production of Starlight Express on the Enterprise. That's Starlight Express.
He was in the Olivia Newton-John physical number on the next set over.
Physical. Yep.
He's on the holodeck, like snow
masturbating. Oh, sorry,
something.
Sorry.
That's right.
You see him come out of the holodeck, and he throws a snowball, and it hits the captain. But of course, that shouldn't have materialized outside of the holodeck. But that's the costume.
We had a whole conversation about that.
We did. And since then, if any of our listeners watch The Orville, there's a deleted scene where there was a third friend, and it's the same actor who plays the helmsman on The Orville.
Oh.
Small world.
Interesting.
Okay, let's move on to talk about a few specific episodes.
Oh, God.
Just to help guide us through what the designers were doing outside of the uniforms. Our first episode I picked is arguably the worst episode of Star Trek, Code of Honor. So taking maybe the overt racism aside of this episode,
it's hard to put it aside.
Yeah, I just don't understand.
Next slide.
I just don't understand. Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
No, I was going to say this was designed by someone who knows nothing about. I mean, it's clearly trying to be reminiscent of some sort of African culture. Mm-hmm. This is clearly designed by someone who doesn't realize that Africa is not a country. And they didn't do any, I mean, I can't imagine that they did any research into specific cultures because it's just a mishmash.
It feels like somebody's like, I've seen Coming to America. I know what Afrocentric costume design is. And then it just takes some dark, like horrible turns that just, I still watch this episode mouth agape. I'm just like, wow, how did this happen?
I mean, some of it reads like East Asian or Middle Eastern, and it's and I guarantee you in 1989 when they had when they had a meeting about this, they said, well, they need to look exotic because that's the word we used to use that meant not white.
Yeah.
Well, at the very beginning of this episode, the Picard gives them a gift of a I want to say it's either a vase or a statuette that's supposed to be from the Ming Dynasty, and the script tries to draw a parallel between their culture and Earth's sort of ancient China. So you're right; they were going for more than just Africa. They were trying to make them interesting and different and alien, but with a reference to something on Earth. Yeah. But the problem is they cast only black, African American or black actors. I don't know if they were all.
I would say black actors because
there's no reason to cast them that way. And then they gave them these dialects. Again, we're supposed to be talking about the costumes, but sorry. You can't separate them, really.
You can't. You're not in this situation. Because this is the conversation in America right now. We actually can't separate it because if we do, we're justifying it, and we're done justifying it.
Yeah.
If someone pulled this today, like people's heads would explode because it's so wrong.
Yeah. It's offensively bad. It's offensive and it's bad.
The pants on the guards remind me of like something from like Aladdin or something.
Yeah,
but they also make me think of like MC Hammer pants.
Sure. Well, and that would have been a reference that they would have used because again, you couldn't, if you're going to have people represented of a different culture that is not of the United States, you can't look at what the black people in America were doing. You know what I mean?
Right, sure.
Like MC Hammer Pants did not represent black culture in 1987 across the globe.
Yeah.
No, or the galaxy.
Or the galaxy. Well, maybe the galaxy, I guess. But they should have went in harder then. There should be more chains.
I do like the jumpsuit that Troy has. That
yes.
I was going to say Marina Sirtis, but
at this
you don't
point,
like it? Oh, I think it's cool.
I mean, it looks like a reject from like the Avengers lineup.
So at this point, Counselor Troy is no longer in her scant that she wears in the first episode. She has her gray jumpsuit with the sash that's kind of a V pointing towards her V. Like, I don't understand why that is like that.
It's just a corset cut sash. I don't understand.
She's wearing a real corset because I can't go run up and touch it so you all can see, but you can see the corset boning.
Yeah, you can see it forming a shelf, underneath. Yeah.
Yep, and the like straight line, you can see the corset boning. It's probably built into the jumpsuit, which means she's not taking it off to pee, man. I feel bad. I feel bad for her.
She's on set 6 hours and she's stuck.
Not drinking enough water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's similar, I think, to 7 of 9's costume that from Star Trek Voyager.
It is very similar to 7 of 9.
But it has a similar V shape, and they gave her boning that was supposed to look mechanical underneath. But
correct.
Still.
And it wasn't built in because she would have been able to take it off to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I always hate this conversation, but you have to when you talk about clothes. Her breasts were smaller, so that made life a little easier. Marina Sirtis here, like, I mean, she's at least a C cup, which means that she needs real underwear.
Yeah, and this is before. I mean, she's been very open about this. She had an enlargement, kind of midway through the show, so this is before that, I think.
So yeah, I mean, but if she had an enlargement, I mean, she was very. I mean, she you know.
It's another thing that
she couldn't go without a bra.
I had no idea. As the straight male in this group, I mean, I had no idea.
If you look at her in her scant from the first episode, and then her in the scant in the flashbacks in All Good Things,
you can tell that
she looks very different. I memean, she's 7 years older, but and just more voluptuous. You know?
That's crazy. I mean, I had a crush on her when I was a kid, but I had no idea. It didn't even register. I had no idea. Even as an adult, I'm like, what? Really? Okay.
Your love for her was so pure.
It was.
Yeah, sorry.
It was the eyes. It was her eyes that I loved.
Yeah. But yeah, did she get a reduction after the fact?
Does she still have them, Mike? Do you know?
I think she still has them. I think that's true. I mean, I don't really know, but I know in interviews she has talked about that.
Yeah, because back then, like the surgery, I mean, I think now it's a little safer, but back then the surgery was dangerous because the stuff they were using, the materials they were using were really questionable.
Yeah.
And like you could have things where the sacs would rupture and you could get infections and I mean, really disastrous outcomes.
Yeah. Well, anyway. In our episode about breasts,
sex sells.
Let's go through a couple more episodes from the first season. The next one I'd like to pluck out of the mix is The Last Outpost. This is the first time we see the Ferengi, and at this point, they're the. I love that they make a joke about this in Lower Decks. They're the like bent over, like human, like Ferengis, like writhing hands, wringing hands, and
that was nice. Mike. I liked it.
That was very good.
And they're dressed so weird. They're wearing like bear skins. They're wearing like fake fur, and what?
They're wearing like mountain men.
They're wearing IKEA throws, and
yeah.
Well, also the back of the head didn't really turn out the way they wanted it to. So they at the last second literally just like stapled this fabric onto the back of the head,
and that's where that headdress thing came from.
That's where the headdress came from. It was to cover up the fact that it wasn't working the way they wanted it to in the back.
Is it safe to say that especially this one in the middle, like it looks like two veiny balls on his head? Like
yes,
scrotum balls.
It does look like an upside down scrotum. Yes,
that is upsetting. A very well shaved.
Aaron's mind is being blown.
I mean, I always looked at it and saw butt cheeks.
Oh, it is. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, butt cheeks.
Like
I mean, it looks like someone. If you look at it upside down, it looks like someone's sitting on a sewer grate or like a subway vent, like the Marilyn Monroe, but it's the other way around. Like it's upside down. and then
No,
like
thank you.
their brow ridge and ears is like the skirt going up,
I'm like,
but
can
it's
I,
going down.
Can I flip the image?
I don't know.
No.
It's
No.
hilarious.
Oh, I did.
Lord. Oh,
Right? That's what it is. It looks like looks like a little ET sitting there flashing
Oh,
somebody
That
from
is
behind.
that is hilarious.
That's hilarious.
Let's undo that. Okay.
That's amazing.
The other costume we see in this episode is the I don't remember what they called him, but
the
like
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
You shall not
Yeah.
pass.
Right. This
Yeah.
is sort of Gandalf like
This is like the
character.
labyrinth reject for the Goblin King.
Oh, my
They just-
Oh, he auditioned for Jareth. It didn't have a big enough
Get it.
codpiece.
Yeah.
They just gathered
God.
some extra fabric and draped it around him and pushed him out there.
Mhm.
I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure this is meticulously designed. But
Sure.
it looks comfortable.
It sure does.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. That's
Yeah.
that's the equivalent of meeting a woman and saying she has a great personality. it looks really
looks comfortable.
comfortable.
She was
looks
wearing
comfortable.
that. They're wearing those
But
costumes.
she did have a great
I
personality.
forgot about.
I mean, she did.
I forgot about this one.
So
I just jumped
let's
to the next one.
move on to the next episode in
Such
our
a
list,
pretty
which is
face.
Justice. Speaking of,
Oh
this is
my
the opposite
God.
of wearing so much fabric. This is wearing practically no fabric.
Oh,
All double-sided tape.
The Edo are a species that will have sex at the drop of a hat.
I just saw Herbert.
Any hat. Oh yeah, there's a little
no.
There's a
there's
little-
a little special gift. In
Well,
this,
hi there.
little Edo Herbert
Actually,
in the slide.
I just keep seeing the camel toe and I can't look away.
Okay,
that
so
is a
hold on.
moose knuckle. That is not
That is
even.
a-
Do you
oh,
think?
yeah. It's both.
Do you think he is tucked like drag queen tucked? Because where is it?
It looks like he has a Ferengi head in his pants, but nothing else.
Would
Because
Do-
I don't think you could get the moose knuckle if you were fully tucked, but maybe you
No.
could.
Did he have to choose sides like a flounder at some point?
Yeah,
like,
I
Really
think-
small.
I think it's just to
Maybe
one
it's just-
side, and it's not that big. It
W-
does not
do-
leave much to the imagination, though.
would there be any circumstances except for going in drag where men would tuck? I don't know enough about men and fashion to know. I mean, do men
No.
tuck for fashion reasons?
Yes. Yes.
Maybe if you're
Um,
building a suit of human skin in your basement,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Yeah, no, if something was really skin tight, but like the thing is that the scenario would be you would tuck in order to shape. So
Right.
if you were small or too big, they would tuck so that they could make you the right size.
Oh,
If
I
that-
see what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. If
So this
he-
isn't serving either
pad.
purpose.
it's not serving either purpose. So what's happening? He might just be small.
It's almost like if they wanted them to be super sexual, you would think they would have built like a cod piece or something. that would
cod
kind of
Yeah, they would have gone.
make it
I mean,
look
to go
bigger.
back to the other slide, you get some Jareth from Labyrinth.
right.
Yeah.
But
But none of them look particularly large, like bulgy.
well, no. They also it's a planet with not a lot of muscle tone. I mean, it was also the 80s. If you think about it, nowadays, if you're shirtless in a movie or on TV, I think about James Bond. At this point, James Bond was Roger Moore. He was like in his late 40s and had no muscle tone at all. And today's James Bond is Daniel Craig, and he has to go like on a body, like he has to prep for those movies by doing all this fitness stuff because he has to be like
Yeah.
So yeah, for the time these were hot people, but today it's like seeing your dad in his underwear.
They're like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It is, and it's just like they just ran out of fabric for this cost. Like they were like, oh shit, we have how many extras? Okay, let's just make 2 costumes out of 1.
Knowing the
Okay.
way,
Cut it into
Okay.
strips.
I'm gonna make all three of you a version of this, and you'll wear it on a podcast. Done. Happy to do it.
Yay.
that will be a Patreon goal.
Ah,
We reach a certain amount of money.
I'm gonna need really specific lighting.
And you're gonna need pasties. Don't worry, I got you covered.
I'm gonna need about a year. I'm gonna need a personal trainer.
That's
Got you.
hilarious.
It's good. Let's do it. Let's do it. When we hit $100,000 on Patreon, I will absolutely let Tim O'Donnell dress me in one of these costumes.
And we're also
Got it.
putting you in this blonde wig. You're gonna look
Eat
so
a day.
good.
Yes.
Yes,
That is a bad
tight,
wig, isn't it?
Tight
It's so
spirals.
bad. It
Yeah.
changes
Yeah.
throughout the show.
Tight.
Knowing the way Bill Tice sketched people, I could see these being beautiful in sketches. You know,
sure.
these beautiful women with these triangles of fabric. But then you put it on someone and it's just like a handkerchief pinned here and there and doesn't look, it just looks so sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the blonde, curly-haired woman actually doesn't look terrible in it.
It's almost like a swimsuit.
Yeah, but the one that's killing me is these two women on the right with. Do you see the clear bra strap?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you were never
They're-
meant to see that.
They're extras, and this was never supposed to be seen in any kind of high def. And these are Blu-ray screen caps. And it's just like this panning scene when the crew walk into this big room, and they're like, these two guys are playing these like alien-looking instruments, and these two women are doing this weird exercise Tai Chi dance thing. That's just supposed to be fabric covering their boobs that's magically there.
It's magical.
But they had to make it
Yeah,
work
well,
for the
yeah.
show.
I also
for
don't
actually
understand
moving.
in a world where they're all very active, very physical people, none of these garments offer any support for movement.
Oh no!
Yeah,
right.
Like,
sure.
can you imagine in that costume jogging 100 meters?
No.
No,
It would be terrible.
and they jog in the show, and it's not great.
No,
Yeah.
but mostly
It's just-
because I don't really know how far a meter is because I was raised in the U.S. education system.
Oh, Jimmy Carter tried.
All right. So
He
you
tried
know,
so hard.
like
Quick.
a track,
Uh-huh.
100 meters is a quarter of the way around it.
Okay, so when you say a quarter,
I think you mean 300-ish feet is what you're saying.
God.
Probably.
Okay.
Um,
I'm not like a metric maniac. It's just you
Well, you're a
run
runner.
in meters.
Yeah. No, I get it.
It's except for the 100-yard dash. I don't know. I just heard that somewhere on TV.
It's
I
like
don't know what
it's
that is.
basically a yardstick. I mean, what's the big deal?
It's more or less the same.
I know yards because I watch football. But
There you go.
that's the one with the brown ball
with
in
the
baskets.
egg-shaped one, yeah. The
There
one,
you
the
go.
pointy egg.
Imagine running from one end of the football field to the other. That's 100 yards. We'll go with that.
We'll go with that.
Wearing that.
If you were wearing this, you would be. Well, I mean, that guy's outfit. I don't know how he's not just flopping out of that. Frankly, I mean, not
If
to
you
be
did
too
that, you'd be
crude,
on the
but, like,
internet because I would have filmed it.
right? The
Wait,
young people, the teenagers, have much more modest costumes.
They do.
Do or do I not have my plexiglass harp over my shoulder at the time?
Yes.
it's invisible.
You have to juggle all of it.
Oh my gosh!
Okay.
Amazing.
we got a lot of slides to get through.
Okay,
friends.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you're
Keep
right.
going,
You're right.
keep
Let's
going.
keep going. The next episode I wanted to look at is Haven. This is the first episode where we meet Counselor Troy's mother. But before we get to her, there are these. It's the one where Troy is engaged to be married to this guy. His mom wears these amazing hats that I just love, and
She's
so there's that.
just hats.
And
Like,
then
very,
they
very
give
great
them
artist.
to Whoopi Goldberg down the line.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Upcycle them. The
her
hula hoops
son
and bike tires.
looks like he's in a Mork and Mindy costume to me.
It does look like Mork of Work. It absolutely does. I had the same thought right before we
A little bit. little bit.
It was like I'm
and then
90%
when they
sure
get
that's
to the
just
planet, they Ben is still frozen.
Oh dear.
Am I?
Oh dear. I wonder if we're being recorded or not.
Oh, well, you guys are coming through okay. Hold on. Let's see what happens.
Hello, listener. This is Mike. So we had some technical problems when we recorded this episode, and it abruptly ends here because basically Ben's internet went out. So we decided to split it into two parts. So this is the conclusion of episode 1 of our 2-episode series on the costumes of Star Trek The Next Generation. Please check back for part 2 very soon. And until then, hailing frequencies are closed. Thanks.
No goodbyes. Just good memories. Hailing frequencies closed, sir.